Can you feel it? Can you almost smell the pumpkin spice in the air? So close. Too early? Almost. For me, as a lover of all things fall, fall is in the air, and that means only one thing, and that is that this is Solidarity September. Solidarity September. Reverend Shannon and I, and dozens of you, started Solidarity September off right with a fabulous Labor Day march. I think we have some pictures, John. We marched here in Portland for labor rights, and many of you marched in other places as well. And it was a phenomenal day, wasn't it, Daniel? We had such a great time. It was a marvelous march. And when we were hanging out, waiting for the speeches to start at the beginning of the march, I turned to Reverend Shannon, and I said, Reverend Shannon, what does solidarity mean to you? And she said, you know, Shell, when I think of the word solidarity, I think of terra firma, solid ground, that there is solid ground for everyone to live from. Everyone. And we are here to talk about that solid ground today, what it is and how we can live from it. I also have to mention that today is World Duchenne Day. I am pretty sure I had never heard of Duchenne muscular dystrophy before my son was diagnosed in 2015. But 1 in every 5,000 boys in the world is born with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And one of the hardest and best things that I have ever done is learn to be an advocate for my son, to stand with him in this life together as we navigate everything that it means to live with a neuromuscular disorder. So today, in solidarity, I honor the scientists and doctors that are using their brilliant minds and hearts to create breakthrough therapies to help heal these kids. And I stand in solidarity with every family and community that is affected by it. There's real change happening in the world of Duchenne today, and I stand in solidarity with all of it. Will you join me there? Thank you. Thank you. One of the ways that we can stand in solidarity is by educating ourselves. And so if you want to stand in solidarity with all of us who are affected by Duchenne, and I include you in that because you are also Alex's community, look up what 9/7 means, why September 7th is always Duchenne World Awareness Day. And that can be a way that you can stand in solidarity with me and my family. Today, we're going to talk about the spiritual ground of solidarity, what it means for our lives, for each other, when we stand together with one another, and what we can do to be real change makers in the world. Of course, here in New Thought, we affirm the great truth. There is one life. There is one power. There is one presence everywhere present. There is only one thing happening here, and that thing is divine love itself, ever expanding, ever growing. Divine love as me, divine love as you, divine love as that sacred us that is a whole. Solidarity, then, if you think about it logically, isn't something we invent. It's not something that we decide to do in September or when we put on our t-shirts in March. Solidarity isn't a choice that we make, and it's not personal, and it's not political. Solidarity, it turns out, is the very reality of who we are. We are one together. To live in solidarity is to awaken to what has always been true, that there can, in fact, be no separation in spirit. The mystics of all traditions remind us of this. The poet Rumi wrote, "You are not the drop in an ocean, you are the ocean in a drop." And if I am a drop and you are a drop, there can be nothing but the one great ocean. And yet, how easy it is to forget, isn't it? How easy it is to fall into the illusion of separateness, to believe in the I and the they. How easy it becomes to wall ourselves off in fear or competition or division. This is why we need a month like Solidarity September. I need a month like Solidarity September to call us back, to reawaken us to the oneness at the heart of life. So, Solidarity September. Of course, I went to the dictionary because it's what I do. And I want to share with you what solidarity literally means. It means union or fellowship arising from common responsibilities and interests. I see Mike over here, who heads up our climate justice team. Every time he works for the environment, he is standing for the common interest that we all have in a healthy planet. Thank you, Mike. It is both our responsibility and our common interest to stand up for a healthy planet. This is what solidarity is. When we speak of solidarity, we are talking about the safety, love, peace, dignity, and prosperity that is the natural birthright of all of us. We're not talking about sympathizing with some group over there and wishing that they had a better life. Oh, poor you. I wish it were easier for you. That's not what solidarity is. Solidarity is not about sympathy. Sympathy says, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for you. It keeps a distance. Compassion does better. Compassion brings us closer. It says, I feel with you. Solidarity says, I will stand with you here in it together. Your struggle is my struggle. Your joy is my joy. Solidarity, it turns out, is spiritual maturity in action. It is love embodied in community. Martin Luther King Jr. put it this way. He said, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Inescapable network of mutuality. We are woven together, whether we realize it or not, whether we think we chose it or not. Solidarity is simply choosing to live in alignment with that. Even science teaches us about solidarity. Quantum physics teaches us about entanglement, the phenomenon that once two particles interact, they remain connected even across great distances. And when one particle shifts, the other immediately responds, instantly. What if solidarity is the human spiritual expression of entanglement? What if we're just entangled in love, in spirit, and where one suffers, we are all impacted. When one celebrates, we are all extended that same joy. Writing to the early Christians 2,000 years ago, Paul reflected what is one of my favorite aspects of Jewish culture, because, of course, just like Jewish, Paul was a Jew, and that was the culture that he was writing from and for, and I think it's important that we honor that. In 1 Corinthians, Paul said, if one member suffers, all suffer together with it. If one member is honored, all rejoice together with it. Ancient wisdom and modern science all agree solidarity is not optional, it is reality. Our choice is whether we will resist it, deny it, or embrace it. Ernest Holmes said, "Love points the way and the law makes the way possible." And solidarity is what happens when love empowers the way. Solidarity is what happens when we allow love itself, that most powerful activity, to make the way for us. And we have the courage to take the step to follow that love. This is what solidarity is. It's love as a spiritual principle, love as a verb, love as an action, love as a choice. So when we practice solidarity, we move from theory to practice, from intention to embodiment. We don't just talk about oneness, we live it. Solidarity is a spiritual practice. And what I am learning is that it's not about fixing others. It's not about even fixing the world. It's about standing together in the wholeness of who we are and calling that wholeness forth. So let's get specific. What does solidarity look like in our daily lives, in our community, and in our world? Well, I will have you know it looks like a lot of things. Spiritually, solidarity can look like praying for others, not out of pity or discomfort for their experience. But solidarity affirms the truth of the wholeness and the love right there at the center of their lives and calls that forward. Prayer as an act of solidarity. Meditating. We can meditate in ways that expand our circle of care. We can begin by meditating on love in ourselves and then visualize that love flowing into the world, making the world a better place. You see, when we meditate in that way, what happens is as we move through our lives, the universe says yes. And when you are meditating on how the world can be a more loving place, and the universe says yes, you know what you get? Opportunities to love. It's really cool. It's really cool. Another spiritual practice that is standing in solidarity is simply affirming, I see the divine in every being, and I stand with you in love. I see the divine in every being, and I stand with you in love. Notice it doesn't say I stand with you in agreement with what you're doing. It says, I stand with you in love. Now, I believe that love is the most powerful principle that there is. And so when I stand with you in love, that love itself creates a space of healing. I don't have to heal it. I don't have to tell you what needs to happen, but I can stand there as a space for that healing to happen. Affirming that love is your core nature calls it forward. There are some people that need to be reminded that love is their core nature. We can call that forward. That is an act of solidarity with the truth. Practically, of course, there are ways to stand in solidarity. Volunteering, not to help or to fix, but to partner. One of the most eye-opening articles I ever read in my whole life was about the white savior complex. Jen, you knew about it. I didn't know about it. We really like to go save without asking what is needed. So volunteering to partner, showing up for community events and vigils and marches and causes that affirm justice. This one's really important. I'm going to talk about it again in a minute. Listening to the people whose experiences are different from our own. Listening to learn, listening to understand, listening to be taught. And choosing words and actions that build bridges rather than walls, that's an act of solidarity. Personally, there are ways that we can stand in solidarity, like checking in on friends or neighbors who are struggling, or expanding our generosity, not just financially, but with our talent and our time and our encouragement. And this is really important. Practicing self-care is an act of solidarity. We show up stronger when we tend to our own well-being. It's really important that we talk about self-care in solidarity because sometimes people fear that solidarity means I lose my individualness in the wholeness of the group, Or it means that somehow I am diminished or sacrificed as an individual when I work for the rights of a group. That if I'm to be in solidarity with others, I have to somehow neglect or erase myself or my needs. But we all know, we teach it, and it's important to keep at the forefront of our minds that the parts cannot be whole until the whole is whole. I'm going to say that a different way because that made no sense that way. We're going to rewind. Let's say instead, the part cannot be well unless the whole is well. And the whole cannot be well until the part is well. Solidarity doesn't drain us when it's rooted in spirit, rooted in love, and in fact, it energizes us. It reminds us that we're not alone when we are held by the greater community of life. I want to share with you a little bit about how I am learning to stand in solidarity, and Alex is just such a great example of this. I am ashamed to say that I didn't really pay much attention to disability rights until I had a child who was disabled. And when he was confined to a wheelchair, it changed the way I experienced the world, and it opened my eyes to things. And I don't blame myself for not knowing what I didn't know before, but I did make myself available to learn. Every single place I go now, everywhere we go, I look around and I ask myself, is this place accessible to my son? If we came here, is there a way for him to get in the building? I ask, would he feel welcome here? Are there appropriate facilities for him? Restrooms and ramps? And most importantly, will my son be seen as a whole person here? When I was in England this summer, I was in a teeny tiny shop with my 16-year-old, and she was sitting on the floor with a basket of handmade stuffed animals, and she was going through them, and she was picking the perfect one for each of her best friends. And so we were just standing there for quite a while in this very small shop. And I was done with my shopping, and I was just waiting, and I heard the owner of the shop complaining to her employee about, and it was it was a very small shop, it was a very loud conversation, and she was complaining about how much space the wheelchair ramp took up, space that she could have used for merchandise instead. Now, I am 100% sure that this woman had no idea that hurt me. She did not intend to hurt me. I hold no ill feelings for her because I might have agreed with her 10 years ago. But she might as well have hung a sign on the wall that said, "You are not welcome here." And this is what marginalization looks like in real life. It isn't always overt, although it can be. And it's often couched in terms of freedom or commerce or religion. But I am here to tell you that if your religion teaches you to hate, if your religion doesn't teach you about unconditional love, if your religion doesn't teach you that accommodation is grace, then you need a new religion. Here at New Thought Center for Spiritual Living, here in this beautiful global community of love, we know that love always wins. Standing in love is a sacred act of solidarity. So I stand with my disabled son by taking the time to listen to him because he is the expert on his experience. This is such an important way that we stand in solidarity with groups that are different from us. We listen so carefully because he is the expert on his experience. And we can do that with every marginalized group, and I include Mother Earth in that. We can listen to what she is so loudly trying to say. And once we are done listening to him, his father, Michael, and I, we have the courage to stand with him and speak truth to power at every level, to advocate for his needs. And let me tell you that it is hard sometimes, but it is also incredibly joyful and fulfilling. And most people are thrilled to learn more about what he needs, right? When we are not seeing the other as a perceived threat, we're always curious about the other. It's our human nature to want to connect, right? So when we learn to drop our perceptions of threat and just meet people where they are, that learning is joy. That learning is grace. And what I am finally starting to learn here a decade later is that when we make the world a better place for Alex, we make the world a better place for everyone. Your world is better when his world is better. Your world is more accessible when his world is more accessible. Your world is more kind when the world is more kind. This is solidarity and it's joy. It's joy. Imagine the ripple effect of a community that lives in solidarity, not out of obligation, but out of joy. On Monday, when Reverend Shannon and I were marching in solidarity with many of you, many of us were wearing these shirts, our Love Always Wins shirts. Some of us have them on today, Alan Israel, I see you. And we were stopped. I want you to know, when we are out in public in force as us, we were stopped by many strangers on the street wanting to know, who are you? Who is this group, this large group of joyful, loving people? And I was reminded that these shirts are more than a slogan. They are a way of life. Every single time I wear it, I'm reminded to be the love that we are talking about, no matter where I am. Last Monday, sometime in the past ago, once upon a day, Michael and I were out school supply shopping with our two youngest, and Michael happened to be wearing this shirt. And at one point, not this one, he has his own. And at one point, I just was stopped dead in my tracks as I was looking at this man, and I thought how grateful. I just had a deep sense of satisfaction at the way he represents that love in the world. That I knew if he interacted with anyone that he perceived to be different from him, it would not change the interaction for him. Because as a white man of privilege, he has been working really hard to recognize the isms of the world and his contribution to them. So if someone came up and they started talking about their gender expression or their sexuality or anything at all, Michael would just be like, that's awesome for you. He would love everyone because love always wins in Michael's world. So these shirts, if you wear this shirt out in public, and we do have some in our bookstore, and they're available online too, y'all. If you wear your Love Always Wins t-shirt out in public, please wear it like an emblem of unconditional acceptance. Like Michael, represent the love of this community with pride. Okay, we have a fun little project this month that I'm really excited to tell you about. For Solidarity September. Hashtag, do we still do that? Hashtag solid, that seems like so 2004 to me. For Solidarity September, if that's a thing, we are inviting you, our beautiful community, to share your moments of solidarity with us. So what do I mean by that? We are inviting you to send in a selfie or a photo of you standing in solidarity. It can be you or you with a group that you're with, like the one you saw before of us at the march. It could be you at a march or you visiting with someone who is homebound. It could be you working in our food pantry. Yes, that is solidarity. Or simply carrying someone else's groceries to the car. It could be you writing a prayer for the safety of someone you know who is transgender. Take a picture of yourself with that prayer, not with their name, please, but with that prayer, and send it in. And at the end of the month, Mary is going to do a beautiful project with all of these photos. So I'm going to invite you to send them in to photos@newthoughtcsl.org. Photos@newthoughtcsl.org. You know, solidarity shows up in 1,000 ways. There's so much that you can do this month to stand in solidarity. I hope when there's a climate justice team meeting that Mike takes a picture of the Zoom meeting and sends it in. That's solidarity, right? When our DEIA group meets, that's solidarity. So solidarity is just taking the empathy that you naturally feel and turning it into action. So be part of this community of love this month for Solidarity September, and send us your photos. We're going to do something really cool with them. And please, in the email, just say if you do not want your image used online. Otherwise, it might show up somewhere on our website or in one of our services. That's fun, right, Daniel? I'm excited. All right, beloveds. Solidarity September is more than a theme. It's a call to awaken. It's an invitation to remember that we are bound together in spirit, woven into the one life, caught in that inescapable network of mutuality. So let's stand together, not in fear, not in pity, but in love. Let's practice solidarity with those near and far, with those like us and those different from us. Let's be the living presence of oneness in a world that so desperately needs to see that. And as we do all of this, let's just remember that solidarity isn't heavy. It's not a burden. Solidarity is joy, because it is the truth of who we are.